Hi everyone, and welcome to this Pilates class for hip flexibility and mobility. We're going to be doing a lot of sideline work in today's class, and we're going to be focusing on hip flexion, hip extension, external and internal rotation of the femur inside the hip. So we're really going to mobilize that hip joint. And just to warm up, we're going to warm up the glutes, getting started on our back. So roll down gently onto your back. Bring your heels in towards your glutes. I want you to exhale, lift up into a bridge. Inhale, lower back down. So pressing through the heels, making sure that you're keeping that rib to hip connection as you lift up. There's a slight tuck under of your pelvis. Let's go for another 4, 3, 2, squeeze those glutes. Last one, lift it. We're going to externally rotate now. So you're going to take your toes out to the side so that they're on an angle, and you're externally rotating. You're going to lower, exhale, lift, bring it back to parallel, lower, lift again, and then externally rotate, taking the toes out to the sides. So we're coming into external rotation, just warming up the glutes. Okay, let's do another 2. Last one. Lift, bring it back to parallel. Now I want you to lift the heels, exhale, lift, inhale, lower the heels back down. So we're warming up the ankles, getting into some ankle mobility, and then we're going to get into our sideline work. So staying up, holding the glutes, keeping that rib to hip connection. Last 3, 2, 1. Lower it back down, lower the pelvis down, hug the knees in towards the chest. Okay, so this is a really functional class. We're not getting into any stretches. We're just mobilizing the hips. Now, you can bend the bottom leg. You're going to be resting on your right forearm and your right hip. Your top leg is going to be extended. I want you to make sure that the pelvis is stacked. So your hip bones are stacked. So you can shift them a bit forward. And then I want you to make sure that you're pressing up out of your side waist, out of that shoulder. Your neck is in line with your spine. You're going to exhale, lift that top leg, inhale, lower. Now you'll notice that there's not a lot of range of movement here. That's because you're keeping that good form. So you're not opening up the hip as you lift that leg up. That knee is staying forward. You're pressing up out of that side waist. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. Let's go for another 2. Last 1. Lower it down. Bring it hip height. We're coming into our side kick. Inhale, flex that foot. Take it forward. Exhale, point and take it back into some hip extension without arching in the lower back. So there's a slight tuck under of the pelvis. Very good. And you'll notice that we're getting into some more ankle mobility, flexing and pointing that foot, which is so important for hip mobility. Ankle mobility and hip mobility work together. Very good. Remember, pushing up out of that shoulder, out of that side waist. You're not sinking low. Keep that head in line with the spine, looking straight forward. Okay. Let's go for another 1. Perfect. Hold it back. Now you're in hip extension now. So your foot is further back than your pelvis. No arching in the back. And then you're going to internally rotate that leg. So the knee touches, foot up to the ceiling, and then extend at the hip again. Tap and extend. Don't arch in the back. When you take that leg back, you're not flaring in the ribs, opening it up. You're keeping that core connection. The core is working just as hard here as the glutes. Very good. So we're going into internal rotation, working the glute med and the glute min, and hip extension, working the glutes and the hamstrings. Very good. Let's do one more. Tap, lift, circle it forward, up and around. Keep that pelvis still. So we're just moving that femur inside the hip. Let's go for 2, 1, and then we're going to take it back. Inhale for half the circle. Exhale for the other half. Let's go for another 3, 2, 1. Lower it down, tap out that hip, and then come to rest down onto your arm. I want you to bring the feet in line with the hips now, in line with your pelvis. And you're going to make sure you're stacking the hips. So you're going to push that top hip away. There's a gap underneath your waist in the mat. And then you can rest your hand on the floor. We're going to come into our clamp. So you can exhale, open that top knee. Inhale, close. And you might only be able to open your leg that much, and that's okay. Go with your own hip mobility. I want you to make sure that you're not rocking back, opening up the hips. The hips are remaining level and stacked, facing forward. Okay. Let's go for another 4. Keeping that core connection, slight tuck under of the pelvis. Let's go for another 2. Last one, hold it up. Coming into internal, external rotation. Tap the knees together, tap the feet together. Whew. Get feeling a nice burn in the glutes. Last 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the leg up, foot in line with the knee. Extend it, bend. So exhale. As you extend it, flexing that foot, inhale, bend and point that foot. Getting into that ankle mobility again. Last 4, 3, 2, 1. Bend it in, lower down, tap out that hip. And then you know the drill. We get to do that all on the other side again. And it's going to be tough on this side. Okay, so I want you to come down onto your left forearm now. Bending the bottom leg, extending the top leg. Okay, pointing that foot. And then make sure that the hips are stacked. So you can roll your hip a little bit forward, making sure that they're stacked. And pushing up out of that shoulder, out of that side waist. Head is in line with the rest of the spine. And then you're going to exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Keep that core connection. Core is working just as hard here as that leg. Okay. Last 5, 4, keeping the pelvis still. 3, 2, 1. Lower it down, bring it hip height. Flex that foot, take it forward on your inhale. Exhale, point. Take it back into hip extension. Inhale. Exhale. Remember, no arching in the back as you take that leg back. You're not flaring in the ribs. You're keeping that rib to hip connection. So if you need to place your hands on your ribs and your hips, just to feel that you're keeping that core connection, you can do that. Sometimes it's nice having that tactile reference. Okay, pushing up out of the shoulder. Very good. Let's go for another 3. Last 2. Last 1. Take it back into hip extension. You're going to bend it, tap the knee down, send the foot up to the ceiling and extend it back into hip extension. So the foot is further behind. That's not very good English, but it is behind the pelvis. Okay, very good. Tap, extend. Inhale, exhale. Pointing through that foot. Very good. Stay with me. Core's working hard. Remember that core connection. Getting into internal rotation. Working the glute med and the glute min. Okay. Last one. Extend it out. Circle it forward, up and around. Inhale for half the circle. Exhale for the other half. Very good. We're strengthening those hip muscles. Last one in this direction, and then we're going to take it back, up, and around. Let's go for another 3, 2, whoo, I'm shaking, 1, lower it down, tap out that hip. Okay, lower down onto your arm, and then make sure that your feet are in line with your pelvis, with your tailbone. We're going to come into our clamp series. Make sure your back is in one straight long line. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Very good. Remember to keep the pelvis stacked, sending that top hip away so that there's a gap between your waist and the mat. And don't rock the hips. You're keeping the hips level, stacked. Open, and then you're going to tap the knee, lift the foot. Internal, external rotation of the femur inside the hip. Remember, we're just working that leg. The hip stays still. It's called hip disassociation when we're moving the femur inside the hip without moving the hip. Okay, last one. Lift it up. Bring that foot in line with the knee. Exhale, flex, send it forward. Inhale, point, send it back. Very good. Stay with me. This is our last exercise. Then we can come into a little stretch, stretching out the glutes. Let's go for another 4, 3, 2, 1. Bend it in. Tap out that hip. Whew. And then lift up to seated. You can come and bring your left leg through your hands, in between your hands, lifting up into pigeon, extending the spine, and then lowering down, feeling a nice release of the glute. Just taking a nice big deep breath here. Releasing any tension. And then you can come onto your glute. Flex that right foot, lift up and over. Shining the chest forward. Looking up towards the ceiling. Feeling a nice stretch in the inner thighs and the hamstring. Perfect. Bend the right leg in, extend the left leg, lifting up and over, looking towards the ceiling, shining the chest forward. Release that. Come up into your pigeon on the right side. Lifting up and then lowering down, settling into your pigeon. Making sure the hips are square. And then you can release that. Come down to seated on your mat, and that's it for today's class. And I want you to remember that even though we are doing these exercises, you won't necessarily notice a difference straight away. This is something that you have to keep on practicing. Practice makes perfect. So if you want to get into more hip mobility and flexibility, practice these exercises and you will become better. So I hope to see you in the next class. Please stick around, subscribe down below, give this video a like, comment down below, let me know how you did and what you would like to see next. And I'll see you then. Bye guys.